It is about granting our university and college presidents and trustees more authority to make strategic adjustments in response to changing demands. It is about better trained trustees. It is about creating an environment of continuous improvement. It is about the core value that students come first. They are the customers of these institutions.
Senate Bill 1 does at least 10 very useful things. 1, it commits state universities to promoting intellectual diversity, a multiplicity of ideas. 2, it says universities as institutions will stay out of politics, even though individual students and faculty can peacefully express themselves as they wish. 3, most importantly, SB 1 eliminates pernicious, discriminatory, costly, and anti-meritorious DEI programs.
I'm a black Ohioan that worked very hard to get where I am. I'm a former homeless high school dropout. I was disabled from 23 to 29 when I fell 30 feet and destroyed my spine. I've had over 40 procedures on my spine. I have metal in my spine. I was disabled until 29. I enrolled at college at 30. By 35, I graduated from law school. I married a beautiful black woman who has a master's degree, right? And we worked very hard to get where we are. DEI, what it does is when the room of 10 people only includes a certain amount of black people, and DEI says you should have more according to your quota, those that are currently present that got there based off their merits, they're going to be joined by individuals that couldn't reach that level based on their merits. The only way to fill your quota is to drop the standards. We see that. In order to fill the positions of what you believe is the quota of equal representation. And as a result, it adds a stain to my resume, because when people look at that room that I'm in, they believe the only reason that I'm present is because of the quotas. I mean, that's what happened to me in law school. I had peers of mine, and this is open public record that can be requested. I had peers of mine openly try to ruin my college career when I was in law school because they said the only reason I was there was because I was black. It wasn't because my LSAT score was in the top 85% or that I graduated magna cum laude from my undergraduate degree at UT. They believed the reason I was there simply was because we only had 2 out of 99 black students in that class. It diminished my presence there in that room because I got there based on my merits. And lastly, the third reason is, and it's a creative viewpoint, I've discussed this at Adrian College where we debated affirmative action. The third reason is DEI is a way of erasing societal guilt. So if you truly believe in systemic and systematic racism, if you truly believe that that has placed minorities like myself at a disadvantage, and your solution is to lower standards to get me in the room, it erases the guilt of society that your systems resulted in me being unprepared and unqualified compared to my peers. It's a way of erasing societal guilt for me being unqualified. Instead, you should look at the systems in place and say, how can we fix them? Maybe we should go back and look at the Democrat-controlled metropolitan cities in the state of Ohio and why those performing schools are underperforming compared to white peers, even though they get higher rates of funding.
Similar behavior was found at other universities in Ohio and around the country. In several cases, those involved in hiring said they wanted advocates of critical race theory and other left-wing ideologies. So it cannot be denied now. DEI is widely used as a tool for racial and political discrimination.
Nationwide, there are over 52,000 students applying to medical school and only 22,000 available places. If students are taken in based on immutable characteristics like race, rather than their academic achievements, then other students with greater potential to be outstanding physicians are denied admission. Medical schools must be absolutely rigorous in choosing the most qualified individuals. This is not only a question of fairness, but it is also a responsibility to provide patients with the best health care possible. For these and other reasons, which I'm happy to elaborate on, Do No Harm strongly supports the legislation that will eliminate diversity, equity, and inclusion from medical education, and ultimately lead to the highest quality of health care available to citizens of Ohio.
In striking down affirmative action, the Supreme Court iterated the following principle. Eliminating racial discrimination means eliminating all of it. Unfortunately, many universities, including in Ohio, have chosen to ignore this principle of color blindness. They have continued to discriminate on the basis of race in admissions, in faculty hiring, and in the classroom.
When we see diversity, equity, and inclusion policies enacted, intellectual diversity is hammered out, and progress pride flags, Black Lives Matter flags, Hamas flags, and other activist flags dominate the learning environments with nary an American flag in sight. In these spaces, ideas like merit, equality of opportunity, colorblindness, institutional neutrality, racelessness, and the reality and beauty of biological sex are stamped out of institutional planning, policy, and practice. Critical social justice degrades the quality of life on higher education campuses. Too often, this toxic diversity, equity, and inclusion results in regressive policies and practices under the guise of progressivism.
SB 1 addresses the civic illiteracy of young Americans that universities have been unwilling to acknowledge, much less to remedy. Here's a sample from ACTA's recent multiple choice survey of over 3,000 college students. Only 40% correctly answered that U.S. Senate terms last for 6 years and House of Representatives terms for 2 years. Just over 1/4 could correctly identify former Vice President Kamala Harris as the then president of the Senate. And terrifyingly, 57% of these young people, when asked if they would stay and fight if Russia invaded the United States, answered that they would prefer to flee the country. So Senate Bill calls for a course that covers the basics of the American story. This requirement will put Ohio in the vanguard of states whose legislatures have recognized their solemn responsibility to remedy civic illiteracy.
The primary responsibility for the unsustainable politicization of academia rests on bloated, unaccountable university administrations, which have instituted a shadow curriculum of politicized faculty and student training, hired teams of administrators to police speech, and incentivized the politicization of academic teaching and research. A key cause of skyrocketing college tuition, the second most cited reason for cratering public confidence, has been the explosion of university administrations in recent decades.
People are worried on these campuses about whether they're going to be excluded based on their political views by not only their students, but in this case of most relevance to this bill, the academic faculty.